So Riot has come out with a state of the game where they're talking about what ended up happening so far, what their thoughts on the game is, the future state of it as well. And then not only that, they even talk a little bit about the meta and how they feel about Draven. All that and more we're going into right now. So again, this is something that I do really appreciate, and this is a state of the game that's listed at February of 2026. So I'm hoping that they start doing a little bit more of this. It would be nice, maybe not necessarily the need to do it every month, but maybe every other month at least would be really nice to see. Because again, I think communication to a TCG community is always better. And especially with the launch, with how everything went, Wave 2, and, kind of the mayhem of product shortages and things like that we had going on with Set 1, they did an all right job at being able to communicate with us, and that was nice. It was still a rough road for a lot of people. It was a very difficult thing for people to try to work through and figure out how to, get through all of this, but even still, I appreciated that they put the effort in to communicate with us, and that's something that they've been able to do even before the game came out. They even listed out a roadmap explaining when they were even going to start considering to do a rotation and the worlds. And then I'm like, dude, the game is even 3 months from coming out and you're already explaining a lot of this. So that was very comforting to be able to see. And again, here we are. We're going into the article and we'll see what they end up saying. So for you to see this for yourself, link is going to be down in the description below for you guys. And we're going to just kind of go through it together. Now, we're not going to read the first couple of articles. The first couple of paragraphs, but we are going to be going into the question and answers, and this is a bit more of an interview style, so keep that in mind as we read into this. First off, we asked Dave and Chengran to discuss their overall philosophies towards how they approach Riftbound as a good reminder of how two of the leaders of the game see it and how we're doing Riftbound 4, and what we're doing Riftbound 4. Chengran says, on the Riftbound team, we are all card game players who value both the strategic and social elements of playing a TCG. We aim to deliver through Riftbound both an interactive, social, and deeply strategic experience for our players. Dave then says, we try to make a TCG that appeals to everyone. Competitive folks who love to pursue a mastery in 1v1, in a 1v1 environment, and social players who love to bring everyone together for battles at the kitchen table, and everyone in between. It's a new game, and certainly not perfect, but the most important thing to us is to continue to improve by listening to you, the players, and shaping the future of Riftbound informed by your needs. Next, we asked Dave for his thoughts about what he sees going well for Riftbound. Dave answers, across Origins and Spiritforged, the first two sets, there have been a lot of cool decks to try in competition and in casual play. The resource system and the ebb and flow of excitement at battlefields is resonating with both the TCG and League audience. And despite availability challenges, communities have formed around local game stores, play at weekly events like Nexus Nights, and around high-level play at the first regional qualifiers. As we have made clear, we take the development of this game very seriously, and we have both Dave and Chengran discussing what we are working on improving. Chengran then answers and says, while we are excited by the response to Riftbound, there's work to be done. The team is working on getting more supply in the wild, improving the ordering process for the Riot merch store, and improving the process for registering for Riftbound events. Dave then agrees that there is work to be done. There is an opportunity to provide more tools to allow Legends to be top tier in competitive metagame. And also some big opportunities to explore on the horizon. Multiplayer focused formats, more limited experiences like draft, and laying the groundwork for a lot of new original art and collectibles. So with that, we will transition into answering questions. We received so many questions on social media, many of which have overlapping themes. As such, we've tried to select the questions which cover the range area players where we're most curious about. First off, what set are you most excited for? Now, of course, Chengran, he's going to say all of Riftbound sets have really exciting new content. Without revealing too much, I think we've got something really special for Set 3 and Unleashed. And the team's really cooked for Set 5 Radiance as well. In fact, here are a few teases Dave and I wanted to share with you for Unleashed. So there's a little bit of a monster there. You know, of course, we know that from League of Legends in this case, so really cool to be able to see that. Let me know what you guys think, what your theories are on how this image is going to be utilized here. This is going to be for Set 5. And then, of course, for Vendetta, perhaps fitting in the set's name, we can tease that there are a few legends for each of these color pairs for the first time in Riftbound. So we got the Christmas colors, we got green and red, we got blue and orange, and then purple and yellow. So we've already been teased about that a little bit before on some announcements that we ended up having, but still really cool to see. And then we also have a look at the key art for Radiance. And so, oh my gosh, we got some answers here. We got some stuff to continue to theorize about. But I mean, again, love that we have Echo possibly as a legend that could be coming in. And yeah, I think this is going to be a step in the right direction. I love also that we're already starting to get some keys into these next sets. Now, of course, with Set 3, we're going to start getting that revealed in about a month's time. So keep that in mind, and we're going to be doing all the reveals right here on the channel too. Now, next, what are your concerns about the metagame for Riftbound being solved quickly? Now, Dave says, TCG players are incredible. There are so many of you, and you're very talented and motivated to find the craziest combination of cards. That means that often the picture we have of the game internally during development doesn't match what players in the wild find to be strong. I'm not concerned where players find some of the best decks quickly. That's expected. But I also hope that players continue to experiment and find interesting new ways to attack the top decks. In general, as long as players can tinker and evolve the decks week to week, I think it's a really healthy metagame. Now, I want to talk for a minute about the current apparent dominance of Draven. In Origins, we saw Kai'Sa and Yi on the top of the meta, but players ended up evolving their decks such that the meta continued to develop. My current perspective is that there are underexplored ways for players to attack Draven, particular strategies that are more resilient to a purple when combat spells. And we believe those strategies can evolve to beat Draven, to be Draven to be the well-positioned in the meta. Of course, time will tell, and we'll pay attention to the results that come out as Spiritforged sees play. Now, yes, I do agree with that, is that, you know, we are probably going to go through the same process that we ended up seeing with the rest of the meta. And even in this last regionals, we did see that they were able to not have Draven be the top winner there. So that was good to see. Now, the thing that I'm worried about in this case is going to be, you know, where Draven as his legend ability doesn't have a downside to it. It's not like a draw one, discard one when you win combat. It's just a draw one. It doesn't tap after you win combat. So you look at, like, you know, well, literally any other legend. You look at Sivir, Ezreal, Fiora, all of them have a condition that needs to be met, great, and then a cost that needs to be utilized in that case, whether it's a tap, whether it's a something along those lines. Sivir's probably the one that has one of the better ones because it untaps by when you kill a unit. It untaps and you have the chance to be able to recycle another for some gold. But at the same time, you know, and even still, it's like Draven just doesn't have that little bit of a downside. So I'm a little bit annoyed about the legend ability itself. I don't mind about the card pool, but when you're able to draw without any repercussions of the deck, that's where I had a little bit of an issue there. But, you know, just had to get that out. Now, next, how will the Riftbound handle banning cards when needed? Of course, sometimes Something in the meta is too overwhelmingly powerful or too oppressive. In general, our philosophy is that we want to intervene at a minimal level needed to correct the emergency state. Often minimal here means no intervention because we believe things will continue to evolve, or we deem the issue isn't severe enough. Given that, how we determine whether things are in an emergency state, we have 4 major metrics we observe. Event attendance, if we are seeing an event attendance decline. Negative player sentiment, we know that the community's conversation can draw down players' interest in playing. Game-breaking combos, do we see oppressive gameplay as a significant portion of play in the format? And archetype dominance, are we seeing a deck or decks dominate across multiple set releases? When one or more of these metrics become concerning, we have internal discussions about potential ways to make changes. What are we considering? Banning one or more cards or restricting the card in a simple or complex way? We prefer not to do this, as it is confusing to communicate and often leaves underlying issues unresolved. And 2 things we won't do as a way to fix things. Issue errata. We won't issue power level errata for cards. That's good. I do agree to that. Well, which is to say we aren't going to change how a card actually works as a way to fix things. And we won't change rules to adjust power level. Now, I agree with that on at least the card front. Again, we did say, like, with how Draven is, unfortunately, it looks like that's not going to get an errata anytime soon, so let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I get it, especially with having an errata on a power level thing, not because they've done erratas. They've done erratas, but it has been more on the clarification of cards so that we know better how they work and interact. Now, the errata here is to say, hey, by the way, this cost of the card maybe costs less now to make it more meta relevant, or, you know, in this case, Draven saying that he needs to tap every time after you win a combat. You know, either way, it looks like that errata is not going to be coming, so let me know what you guys think about that. Sometimes we need to change the rules or errata to improve Riftbound and overall terms of clarity. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll skip that part. And if we do end up in intervening and banning cards, timing and communication is super important to help maintain the integrity and competitive game. We'll rapidly provide communication about considering intervention and about chosen intervention, if any, as rapidly as we can. When possible, we'll hold off on banning cards when we are less than 2 weeks away from the next high-level competitive event to try to ensure players have a chance to playtest and adapt. So that's a big thing there. They will hold off on banning cards when we are less than 2 weeks away from the next high-level event. And well, the hard part with that is that China has had all their regionals week after week after week after week. And then our pre-Rift event, or our Spiritforged event, is being released in English for the rest of the world, and then we immediately have, you know, a regional. Now, of course, that's not always going to be the case. Keep that in mind, but it's still something to keep in mind because it's like, well, then when? Because it's like, how do you fit that in? And again, this is also going to be a very rare circumstance. I'm not going to be saying, like, this is going to be a regular occurrence where they have to... No, not at all. Instead, it's going to be more along the lines of, this is the state of the game, you know, and we need to ban a couple of cards. This is going to be a very rare event. It might be a lot more common as we get to set 4, 5, 6, maybe, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we might not see bans for a while. So... you know, if not until even like set 10, 11, 12 even. We'll see. But really, I think we won't necessarily have a chance of seeing that. Now, Riftbound feels complex. What are you doing to simplify and streamline the game? TCG naturally add a complexity over time as more and more content is added to the game. We are striving to make sure that Riot's cards themselves are processable and understandable as we can to minimize additional complexity. We won't always hit the mark, but this is our ethos we strive for. The primary tool we use to control this and to make the game approachable for new players are reusing mechanics where it makes sense to, new player-friendly champions, and creating introductory level of product. And again, this is going to be a big thing too. There have been a number of erratas for the first 2 sets of Riftbound. That's the nature of designing a new game, and we are learning and improving how we approach the rules as we develop. We expect the quality of cards to receive an errata to decrease going forward, but as always, our first goal is to make Riftbound the best game possible, and we're always looking at improving and updating the rules to make that happen. Now, this is something that they are hiring a person for, to really fix the rules and the wording of cards and make sure that everything is easily reflected. And that's going to be the big thing here that a little bit annoyed me on the previous one. If you saw my past video, the Sivir match where they had last rights. Last rights specifically says that when you conquer or hold, you are able to play a unit from your trash to the field. You still have to pay the costs. That's essentially all it says, but the actual rules themselves say that in the case of last rights, you go through a certain level of processes in selecting the card, and that's just not how the card is worded whatsoever. And I really feel like there needs to be that clarification between how the card actually works and how it is reflected in the rules, because that's going to be one of the biggest things. Yes, it is very important that you still read the rules, but this is a very complicated rule set. So to remember what happens in section 310 to 312 for last rights as a specific card can be a little bit much to ask sometimes, especially when the card, I think, needs to accurately represent how the rule works so that you do not necessarily need to check unless there is a very odd interaction with like another card or another board state. And I mean, yes, this still happened with Rasha in the Sivir match, but at the same time, if they would have just said that, you choose a card, banish it, and then are able to play it, well, then at that point, we would know, okay, it's not actually in the trash after we select it, because that's an interaction that doesn't exist necessarily in any other TCG game. You go and play Magic the Gathering, well, I mean, they have graveyard represented decks that just fish things out all the time. And they even will sometimes check the deck state of the trash and whatnot. And so no one necessarily thought like, oh yeah, well, when you choose the card that you're going to be summoning out to the field, it banishes, and then you pay the cost, and it checks the deck to say that Rasha needs to pay 4 because there's only 6 cards in the deck instead of 7 with it counting itself, kind of thing. And so again, I think we need to do a little bit better with that, because I don't want, especially new players, that's going to be one of the biggest things that can push away new players, is the fact that they're like, wait, that's not how the card works. We had that happen at our Origins event when the game first came out. Someone thought that the card that copies the might of another unit, I forget what the card is, it's the slime one, but it doesn't say in the OG card till end of turn. A lot of us know, yes, it's not going to be permanent. We know this, but she didn't know that. She's a brand new player, even into TCGs, and she was really mad when I was like, oh, by the way, that doesn't last till the rest of the game. That only lasts till end of turn. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, they did an errata for it. Here's how the card really reads. And she's like, that's stupid, and I get it. But again, a little bit of my 2 cents there as we continue to go down the list. Now, what are you doing to make Riftbound more available and bring prices down of boosters? Now, we are continue to work with our partners at UVS and Shining Soul to get more cards in the hands of players. In January, we announced new regarding Origins and Proving Ground reprints, but as we said, we know more will be needed. As we see how the community grows and evolves, we'll continue to adjust print plans for the game. The team cares about players first and foremost, and we are keenly aware of both meaning of investment where it comes to our players. We want Riftbound to be a worthy investment for both players' time and their money. Our vision of a healthy Riftbound landscape is where everyone who wants to play is able to play. And again, this was a little bit of an iffy situation. We're already looking at the pre-release prices for Spiritforged. They're always super inflated. Don't be freaked out by it yet. But at the same time, it's like, well, one of the biggest things that mitigates that is going to be allocation, how much product you are able to get out. One of the biggest issues was, well, in America, we just have such a scarcity of product. They answered that a little bit by saying, hey, any and all languages can now be used. Okay, cool. So now we are going to get some of the Chinese packs and boxes for Spiritforge and going to be able to play those in our decks. Now, I still do think that they might need to have a couple of instances on how cards are needed to be represented in tournament play, such as maybe having a printout copy of the card on your person so that your opponent can see the English translation if they request it. Otherwise, you need to go through a judge to be able to see how the card is translated at a big event. That can be very time-consuming, and you might not get time extensions for that. And so, again, I do really like, though, that they are allowing us to be able to buy the Chinese product. I've already bought 3 boxes of Spiritforge, and that's going to be here in a couple of days. We'll be opening it here on stream for everyone to see, and we'll see how that goes. But even still, I really do like this step in the right direction, and they already ramped up Spiritforge production. The last online event that they did with Origins, where they did the selling of the boxes, they said that they had 50% more than what they had for Origins in this online sale. And by all metrics on what people have been explaining to me at my local game stores when I'm talking and asking around, they are getting a lot more than what they have expected of Origins. I still think at the same time we're going to go through a little bit of the drought that we went through in Origins, where there was just a loss of no packs unless you went to Nexus Nights, and that might be something that's going to be happening here, though I don't think it's going to be as long as what we had in Origins, where it was, literally a month and a half. The game came out in October. We ran out of packs third week of third week of Origins, and then we didn't have anything until late December, early January. And so, again, I don't think it's going to be that extreme there, but it could be. Now, what are we going to see? More original art for Riftbound instead of just reusing art that is from other Riot games. I get that this is a gripe with a lot of people. I don't necessarily care because, it's a way to cut costs in this case for an already expensive game. And I'm okay with them doing that for the first few sets, but then after, set 4, it's like, hey, guys, time to really do your own artwork. So Chengran answers, with every release, you will be seeing more new art on Riftbound cards. We're already ramping up to add more new art to the game, and players will see a larger portion of original Riftbound art with every new set. This amazing art, which already exists thanks to Legend of Runeterra and elsewhere from Riot, was fantastic for us to get this game started quickly, and we're excited to showcase many more brand new Riftbound first art in the near future. Now, again, I've been saying this, that, getting a TCG off the ground is a huge investment, not even just for the artistry and things like that, but just the printing and everything. And so if you can mitigate the costs somehow, especially as starting a new wing of the business or even just starting a new business in general, you're taking that. So for them to say, hey, look, we've already paid for this artwork, we're free to use it, it still looks really good in a physical TCG as it did with Riot in League of Legends or Legends of Runeterra, so let's just reuse it to help keep costs down for now. I was okay with that. And so again, if they're doing that where it's set 10, unless they do a homage to Legends of Runeterra, if they ultimately shut the game down and then they released a couple of cards just to be to all you players out there who played with us in Runeterra for a while, thank you. Anyway, you get what I mean. Now, I want more multiplayer Riftbound, but since release, everything is 1v1. What are your future plans for it? Dave, we love that Riftbound works so well for multiplayer, both free-for-all and 2v2. One of our guiding principles of the original Riftbound system design is that it is very welcoming and fun to play with your friends and bring in those who might have never tried a TCG before. This year, we expect to begin supporting multiplayer more at local game stores and higher level events. Though side events, not the main events of larger events. Additionally, we will be looking into developing a new multiplayer format support and even a potential multiplayer-friendly product. Now, that would be really cool to be able to see, and we'll see what happens. I mean, heck, we even had here in Utah, we had a 5v5, and that was a really interesting tournament. Now, of course, you couldn't use the same legends and things like that, but you had your team of 5 going against another team of 5, and that was a really cool tournament format because it was more team-based. And then we even had a 2v2 tournament here, which was really cool to see. So we're already kind of testing that by ourselves here just because people want to play it, stores want to run it, so they do. And so it's cool that we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. Why won't you allow more people to register for Riftbound Regional Qualifiers? This is the one that got under a lot of people's skin because, especially with Vegas, they said they had like 5,000 more people try to register and get in than those who had the ability to. And so again, that's gonna be a big deal and whatnot. But we've already seen like 2,000 player events for other card games, and so we'll see. But as much, Dave answers, as much as we would prefer to have these uncapped, it doesn't make great sense where it has to be 20 rounds or where there isn't sufficient judging staff to make everything go smoothly. We're working with our partners at UVS about raising the cap on event sizes in a sustainable way for the high-level premier events as we scale our ability to manage events of that size. But it's also true that the cap isn't infinite. And of course, if we're asking for it to be infinite, we're very unrealistic there, guys. So hopefully we're not. I'm not even saying, like, if you go to, like, 5,000 players, you're going to be playing for an insanely long time. It's not worth it. But we're looking into how to manage this long term, including investing in third-party tournaments and their relationship to premier levels of play. How many would make sense and how often to run large events. Now, Riftbound has competition with other TCGs. How do you plan to stand out? How do you plan to stand out as a competitive TCG? Chengran answers, there have been a ton of new products and excitement in the TCG space in recent years. The team here feels excited as long-time players of the genre. Riot's games have almost always been competitive in nature, so we hold the competitive elements very near and close to our hearts. We have set out from the beginning to be communicative and reactive to the Riftbound and its launch in a way that hope players feel valued and that they are part of the growth of the game as we work to get the basic rights as the game launches. Riot's brand and game ecosystem are also something we feel helps stand out compared to other TCGs, both from champion players know and love, but also from game mechanics and concepts that translate from the digital to the tabletop. As we have seen in other games, whether it's LOL Esports, Val, or TFT, there are many learning and interactions along the way, and we will definitely adopt the best practices from other games, iterate, and keep the boundaries on a great experience for our competitive players. Now, we only have a few more questions here. You also confirmed best of cards would not be one-ofs, but how many are you planning to have out there? We believe best of pricing was an exciting element of Riftbound, and we've been thrilled to see players agree. We've had several conversations about these pricing and what the right balance was for players and for the game. Our current plan is for best of to rotate out of Riftbound tournaments after 3 sets. So Origins, Proving Ground, Legends will stop being best ofs at the following events of Vendetta, despite them still being legal for play in the format. We felt it important to ensure there were multiple opportunities for players in every region to have a chance to take home one of these prizes, but also wanted to ensure they remain limited and exciting and an exciting prize. As always, we will be eagerly watching the community and the events to see if the decision bears reconsideration or changes in the future. So again, if you ended up getting, the one of Yasuo, I'm seeing you, Gale Wins, that's actually a really good step in the right direction there, because that is going to make the card a lot more rare. So if you got the Metal Lux, we saw how much the Metal Lux ended up selling for. That is probably going to be even more rare because, well, once we start, I mean, what we have, maybe one more regional after that, after the 2 regionals for Spiritforged, maybe more, we'll see. But yeah, that's going to be interesting, because then after that, it's like, all right, well, Origins and Proving Grounds, no more Legend cards for them. The metal cards, the best of Legend metal cards. And so that's interesting. I really like that, though, because I do like the rarity, though I do also love that it has encouraged people to continue to play. But, you know, there's still going to be a ton of Legends to be able to use, and no one's going to be going and saying, I'm taking Draven to try to get that metal card, you know, kind of thing. What else are designers working on, Dave? Well, a lot. The team has finished work on the sets for this year and is currently working on the sets that will be delivered in 2027 or later. We're also busy on some cool collectible products that aren't the main sets, and working on improving our core and tournament rules, something that we're looking into with every set release, as well as potential new multiplayer and organized formats. So they pretty much already answered that. Do you have updates on global release synchronization between China and US? We already know this answer, but we'll read it anyway. Chengran answers, yes. We're planning on synchronizing the release when Set 4 Vendetta launches. A lot of players have already guessed, accurately I might add, that we'll be spacing the Chinese sets out at 4-month candidates while keeping the English sets at 3 months. This has allowed us to be in sync with the launch of Set 4. Future languages will be launched at an accelerated pace such that they will also be caught up as soon as possible. Are there more products like Proving Grounds coming? Yes. As we announced earlier, we've already kicked off the reprint process for Proving Grounds and share more news on that shortly. Additional, the team also has a few important takeaways for future product like Proving Grounds, which is also intended to serve as a learn-to-play introductory product. One important example that fans will be excited to hear: we've learned our lessons and do not plan to include mechanically unique cards in future iterations of the product. Yeah, thank you. Well, and here's the hard part, though. They're still not releasing Flash in the Nexus Knight packs. So still, the only way that you are able to get Flash, and yes, it has taken a step back of the meta a lot, but it's still the only way to get it is through the Proving Grounds pack. So it's fine. It makes sense, but, I'm glad that they learned their lesson there. What are the plans for officially supporting Riftbound digitally? Definitely did not see this question coming, JK. And I mean, this is one that we've been saying since, again, before the game even released. We've been asked about this a lot and have discussed it a lot internally as well. After all, Riot's games have been all digital prior to Riftbound. It's a delicate topic as there are many benefits to having a digital experience, including easier onboarding tutorials, more clarification around some of the cards' interactions. However, we know the key part of TCG experience is the in-person social interaction, and we do not want that to be lost. We're always looking at ways to improve our player experience and won't rule out any options that can do that, including an official digital client for Riftbound. So again, without answering the question, they answered the question. So that's going to be the biggest thing. Now, that could already also be in development. We've seen for other card games, for example, we've seen Magic the Gathering Online. It's been very successful, but the in-person community hasn't struggled at all. We also have a lot of clients that play this digitally. I mean, I run a tournament for Spiritforged every Tuesday, and we have a lot of other tournaments from Runes and Rift and from Rift Labs and people like that run a lot of online tournaments, and that doesn't necessarily take away from that. We just want, normally we're going to be playing both. There is going to be that outlier of person who just wants to play in the online scene or things like that, but it's not going to necessarily be that end all there. And so I'm still going to be really excited to see if they will take that product. I still think that what they might do, again, there is no anything to benefit this but this is just me thinking out loud logically with how Riftbound could potentially fix this, is taking the Legends of Runeterra base and just recode it and reintroduce everything with Riftbound. You would need to, of course, add in all the cards digitally, code out how they work and things like that, those interactions and things like that. But you already have a platform designed for online play. And so it's already dead. They've already killed it. And so I would be very curious if they took Legends of Runeterra and just repurposed it as a Riftbound Online. Is it possible? Probably. But again, there is no grounds for me making such a claim. Again, it's just me thinking logically on what they would do, especially for a game where there's not necessarily a whole lot of people that are playing Runeterra. It still has a community. I still play on it every now and again. And they have tournaments still that they keep things alive. And even though they're getting no new cards, they rotate it out and stuff. But it really wouldn't surprise me if Riftbound Online took the place of Runeterra and they just took that foundation and recoded it, repurposed it, because that'd be the easiest and quickest way to do so. We'll see, but I am going to be very curious on what they end up doing, because I do think an online client is only going to help the game grow, not necessarily decrease. I get why they are having concerns about that, but I don't necessarily think it is as warranted as what they may be sounding like it is. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for now. What do you guys think about this update from them? Let me know down in the comments below. What did you hope that they would maybe answer? Go ahead and let me know. And until next time, guys, have a good one.